The film begins at an exhibition event in Ohio, United States. At that time, there's a man named Parker who was disguised as a priest. Parker turns out to be a skilled thief, and this time he intends to rob money from one of the banks at the exhibition. He did not work alone, but was helped by his group, who were ready in their disguises. His group consisted of 4 people, so one disguised as a security guard, 2 as clowns, and another who was in charge of diverting attention. At that time, Parker tried to enter the bank, pretending to leave a suitcase. However, his partner, disguised as a clown, suddenly appeared and attacked the officers. Quickly, Parker and his 2 friends disguised as clowns managed to take all the money there and put it into their bags. On the other side, one of Parker's friends set some straw on fire to distract people. But the fire got out of control and spread to a gas tank, causing an explosion. The explosion hurt some innocent people. Meanwhile, Parker and the others quickly escaped with help from their friend who was dressed as a security guard. Soon, they reached a warehouse to switch cars. But then, Parker got really mad and hit the friend who set the fire. He hated it when people got hurt in his robberies. Even though he was a skilled thief, he had a rule to never harm innocent people. After that, Parker and his group left in another car they had prepared earlier. While they were driving, one of his friends, named Melander, came up with a new plan. He wanted to use all the stolen money to steal some very expensive jewelry, even though they had agreed to split the money equally right after the robbery. Hearing this, Parker refused and wanted the money to be divided equally right away. However, Melander and his men had an evil plan for Parker if he refused. Luckily, Parker realized this, so there was a fight in the car. Outnumbered, Parker was shot and then thrown out of the car. Melander then ordered one of his men to make sure he was really dead. Melander's men quickly got out and shot Parker again. Then they left. Not long after, a farming family passed by and found Parker in a helpless condition. Luckily, he was still alive but very seriously injured. The farmer's family quickly helped him and took him to the hospital. 2 days later, Parker woke up in the hospital. At the same time, he saw the news on TV about the police hunting Melander's group, including him, for their robbery at the exhibition. Even though he was still very weak, Parker was determined to escape from the hospital by disguising himself as a doctor. After successfully getting out, he stole an ambulance and went to a wheat field. When he arrived there, Parker immediately took care of himself, knowing that he was not fully recovered. Long story short, 3 days later, Parker had fully recovered and quickly went to steal a gun and change his clothes. Not only that, he easily stole a car and continued his journey. Soon after, Parker contacted someone to change his entire identity. After that, Parker stopped at a savings and loan cooperative to rob it. He needed money to take revenge on Melander and his team who had betrayed him. Parker easily knocked out the guard there and took all the money. After getting all the money, Parker left using the stolen car. On the way, he contacted his father-in-law, Hurley, who was also a senior thief. Hurley had many connections with bad people. Parker asked if Hurley knew where Melander and his group were because Hurley was the one who introduced Parker to Melander. However, Hurley swore he didn't know where Melander was. He suggested Parker visit Melander's younger brother, Rainder, who owned a nightclub at the end of town. Most likely, Rainder knew where Melander was. Hearing this, Parker was grateful and immediately went to the nightclub. In the evening, Parker was seen at Rainder's club. He quickly beat up several guards and entered Rainder's room. Easily, Parker overpowered Rainder and asked where Melander was. Scared, Rainder told him that Melander and his friends lived in a luxury housing complex called Palm Beach, Florida. After that, Parker contacted Hurley again and asked him to go far away while taking Parker's wife named Jen with him. At that time, Parker was sure that Rainder would fight back and might threaten his wife and in-laws' safety. On the other hand, Melander panicked when Rainder told him that Parker was still alive and hunting for him. Melander was furious and blamed a colleague named August for not confirming that Parker was really dead. There, August tried to calm Melander, saying his uncle was a big mafia boss, and he would ask his uncle for help to send the best hitman to finish off Parker and his family. In the end, Melander felt a bit relieved and asked August to ask his uncle for help right away. The next day, Hurley and Jen were getting ready to leave town. But before that, Hurley asked Jen to wait at home for a moment because he wanted to say goodbye to his neighbors. While Hurley was gone, an assassin sent by Uncle August came. Luckily, Jen realized this and was able to escape. On the way, Jen called Parker to tell him what had just happened. There, Parker told her to go to his hiding place at a house on the beach. Jen quickly headed there. After that, Parker met with Hurley. Hurley advised Parker not to cause any more trouble or hunt down Melander because it would only endanger their family. Hurley even promised to give Parker $200,000 to replace the money Melander took. However, Parker refused and insisted on hunting Melander and his group. At that time, Parker planned to go to the luxury Palm Beach estate with a new identity as Daniel Permit, the son of an oil refinery boss, to buy a house there without using his real name. The scene then shifts to the luxury Palm Beach housing complex. There, a woman named Leslie lived alone with her mother and was having financial problems. Leslie worked as a salesperson selling houses in Palm Beach. While at the office, Leslie was worried because she had many bills to pay but no money. She decided to steal a client's contact information from a friend so she could contact the client directly. At that time, Leslie managed to connect with the client and they quickly set up a meeting. The client turned out to be Parker, with his new identity as Daniel Permit. Soon after, Leslie invited Parker to look at the house he was interested in buying. On the way, Parker asked to stop for a moment because he had some business. He walked to the beach while Leslie waited in the car. Unexpectedly, Parker went to meet Jen, who was hiding at the beach house. After meeting, they shared an intimate moment. Sometime later, Parker said goodbye to return to the Palm Beach housing area to finish his business. The next day, Parker returned with Leslie to look at the house. While there, Parker noticed a neglected house that looked very different from the others. Leslie explained that the house had been bought by a group of people but hadn't been maintained for some reason. Hearing this, Parker immediately suspected that Melander and his group lived there. That evening, Leslie checked the data about Daniel Permit, or Parker, and discovered that Daniel had never made a transaction on his credit card. Realizing she had been deceived, Leslie became even more confused when she received an email from the leasing company wanting to take back her car. Meanwhile, Parker was sneaking into the neglected house that afternoon. His suspicion was correct that Melander and his team lived there and were getting ready to go out. After they left, Parker quickly took action by planting a weapon under the table. He also destroyed all of Melander's weapons and discovered their evil plans. Shortly after, Melander's group returned. Luckily, Parker was able to escape safely. However, as Parker was about to leave, he saw Leslie waiting for him in his car. There, Leslie revealed that she knew Parker was a fraud and that he wasn't there to buy a house, but to rob Melander and his group. At that time, she asked Parker to stay calm, promising she wouldn't reveal his secret as long as she could come with him because she needed money. Parker agreed to Leslie's request, as long as she obeyed everything he said. Parker then took Leslie to his office and asked her to take off all her clothes to make sure she wasn't carrying any listening devices. After confirming she was safe, Parker left and promised to contact her the next day. The next day, Parker met Leslie again in an empty house. He told her all his plans, and Leslie had to follow them. Parker then asked if Leslie knew where the diamonds worth tens of millions of dollars were kept since Melander's group was after them. But there, Leslie, who had lived in the area for a long time, knew that the diamonds belonged to the Queen of Palm Beach and would be auctioned the next night. After that, Leslie took Parker near the house of the Queen of Palm Beach. There, he saw Melander and his group pretending to be officers at the Queen's house. Parker then asked Leslie to return to his office while he went back to the hotel to make plans. But when Parker arrived at his hotel room, he was surprised by an uninvited guest, and it was a hitman sent by August, the same one who had attacked his wife. Shortly after, a brutal fight broke out, but Parker managed to defeat the hitman by throwing him off the building. In the afternoon, the police came to Leslie's house. They asked about Daniel Permit, or Parker, because they knew Leslie had worked with him as a salesperson. The police explained that Daniel Permit had killed a man, who was the hitman, and the incident was recorded on a resident's cell phone. At the same time, Leslie noticed blood in the sink and on the soles of her dog's paws. When she looked to the side, she saw Parker hiding and seriously injured. Luckily, the police didn't see him, and Leslie quickly told them she had no more business with Daniel Permit and knew nothing about him. In the end, the police left Leslie's house. After they left, Parker asked Leslie to go to work as usual so no one would suspect anything. At first, She refused because she was afraid people would find out about Parker. Luckily, her mom calmed her down and told her to follow Parker's orders. At that time, her mom also welcomed Parker and allowed him to stay at their house for a while. While Leslie was at work, she couldn't focus because she kept thinking about Parker. Eventually, she decided to go home to check on him. When she arrived, she found that Parker had already received treatment from his wife, who used to be a nurse. This made Leslie a little jealous because she had started to like Parker. In the evening, the diamond auction for the Queen of Palm Beach began. As the event started, there was a sudden explosion that scared everyone. During the chaos, Melander and his team came in pretending to be firefighters. They easily took the expensive diamonds and escaped using water. Meanwhile, August, who was responsible for distracting everyone, took a ship to a restricted area, causing the police to chase after him instead of the others. This made it easy for Melander and the others to escape. Meanwhile, Parker, who was already at Melander's house, hid while waiting for them to arrive. Not long after, Melander and his friends arrived with all the diamonds from the robbery. At the same time, Leslie also arrived because she was worried about Parker. Unfortunately, Leslie was caught by August, who brought her to Melander. Seeing Leslie, Melander guessed that this was all Parker's doing. Then, Melander quickly ordered one of his men to find Parker, believing he was already in the house. He also shouted that he would kill Leslie if Parker didn't surrender. Meanwhile, Parker, still hiding, managed to kill one of Melander's men. Realizing one of his men hadn't returned, Melander began to panic. Then, he and August decided to go out and look for Parker, leaving one of their subordinates to guard Leslie. However, the man guarding Leslie tried to flirt with her because he found her attractive. At the same time, she noticed a gun under the table that Parker had hidden earlier. She quickly grabbed it and shot Melander's man. Meanwhile, Melander found Parker and a fierce fight broke out between them. There, he managed to defeat Melander brutally. When Parker was about to go inside, he saw that August had taken Leslie hostage. Luckily, the gun August had was out of bullets, so Parker quickly dealt with him. Parker finally got his revenge on Melander's group and took the expensive diamond that Melander had stolen. On the way back, Parker asked Leslie to hide all the diamonds in the ventilation room at his office. He explained that they would retrieve the diamonds when things calmed down, which would take some time. There, Parker promised to keep only $200,000 and would give the rest to Leslie and the farming family who had saved him. After that, Parker and Leslie went their separate ways. 6 months later, Parker found his uncle August, the mafia boss who had once sent a hitman to kill Parker's family. There, Parker quickly defeated the mafia boss, ensuring no one would hunt him down in the future. The scene then shifts to Leslie, who receives a package. When she opens it, she finds a lot of money from Parker, the proceeds from selling the diamonds. At that time, Leslie is very happy because she can now solve her financial problems. Meanwhile, the farming family also received money from Parker, allowing them to build a new house and farm. The story ends. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you're going to rob diamonds and fight bad guys, at least make sure your guard dog doesn't step in blood and give you away.